Hello. A forehand, Orbelos. Getting ready to get started here. Thanks, Samus, for doing your thing. Hello, and welcome to the weekly Wednesday Lunchtime Livestream here on twitch.tv/DDO Stream and youtube.com/DungeonsandDragons/live. I am DDO's Community Manager Cordovan, here to run haunted halls on Sarloni. Yep, that good old place known as Sarloni. Yeah, I'm gonna be doing that today. So, I'm kind of on my second character that I've wanted to get epic level. This is actually based on one of Samus's builds several years ago. It's a artificer that also does many shot. Many artificer? Shot-officer? Many-fisser? So anyway, that's what I'm doing today. I've got plenty of room in your in my group. So if you'd like to send a tell to Gamogel, that would be very cool. Got plenty of time here this afternoon. I guess I probably will talk a little bit about our Black Friday sales. I've had a couple people ask a little bit about that, so perhaps I can do that. Yep, I should be able to do the traps. Anyway, we just made active our Strength in Numbers weekend. It's our DDO bonus days that just kicked off. It's going to be going through Sunday, and it's a plus 5% XP bonus for every member in your party or raid group other than yourself. Yes, that includes hirelings. If you're feeling particularly antisocial, but nonetheless, sometimes we do just parties, just raids. This weekend is both. It's all the things. So, good time to run both Von 3 and Von 5. Or any other quest that you wish, because you'll get bonuses for doing so. I'm on Sarlona. Going to be running Haunted Halls of Eveningstar. Looks like I can do extended. Why don't we do that? And let's go in hard, just because there's only a couple of us and I don't want to die a whole lot. Slightly less. Welcome also to folks over on YouTube, Virtual Gib, appreciate that. The server is Sarlona today. Let me actually put a thing in. Pretty sure it includes hirelings. I guess I haven't formally checked that, but I think it should. Probably also includes, like, your owlbear and stuff. Yamanira's, yeah, I've done that too. I've TR'd and then made fundamental mistakes, and it's like, dope! What was I thinking? Anyway, hope you've got, if traveling is in your plan.
Hi, my name's Greenwood.
Today,
I design games,
which is highly likely, for a lot of folks in the United States at least. Hope you have a good weekend. Hope you have safe travels.
At that time, modules were written using a printed book, and I don't mean it was a guide or anything like that. There was a pre-prepared blank book of pages, and you would storyboard your illustrations and everything, so everything would be organized, and so that your text would actually fit, something I was notoriously bad at when I started. And when TSR made the decision to buy the realms and make it the official world for the unified world for the second edition of the game, they gave me an assignment to write a D&D module.
And get through the traps, just not very well, huh? Alright, well, that works.
To follow this format.
I assume we may have to do this again.
The sort of in-house technicalities thing. But they then asked me for a whole list of dungeons. What do you have in the way of dungeons, they asked. And I gave them about 4 pages of names of dungeons, their locations, and what they were. And a lot of them didn't fit what gamers at that time had grown to expect from Judges Guild and so on, which was a big thing. Undermountain was
that
big,
worked.
but most of them were what I call mini dungeons that were one-night things, like a tomb. And I wanted
Snur! That's true, we did get Snur around here today, or yesterday, or a couple days ago. Not much, though. At least not much for me personally. It was cool, though.
The haunted halls was something different.
Winter is upon us.
The village of
I don't know if you guys are doing the whole
a foundation for a campaign.
Thanksgiving turkey thing. Probably a lot of you are. That's you. Hope you're having fun. I'm going the tofurkey route this year.
Because we think the name is neat. Cool. But I
well, you know, I'm an artificer, right? So I don't have much in the way of reflex saves.
32-page adventure. Cut the village. Just have the dungeon. And then, of course, I had to cut half the dungeon, too. Because there were also things that were sort of a code of ethics. For instance, I had all these kobolds looking at them separately. All these kobolds...
Apparently I need... Somewhere I've got ghost touch. I should probably find and include that. Bypass this in corp thing.
I don't want to talk about stuff like that. I said, but you have to. They have to get water and food from somewhere, and...
Yeah, that's the only thing about this. I mean, I can do traps, right? Because I'm an artificer, and hey, I might as well invest in it. But obviously, I don't have the dodge or the reflex save that I'd have if I were a rogue.
So,
alright, let me see what I got for ghost touch.
The printed adventure you saw was a process of pruning drastically, taking stuff out.
Hopefully, I have something.
So much of the stuff was predicated on the way my players liked to play.
And no. Alright, well.
Had lots and lots of subplots. So there was lots of chances to talk to people, monsters, whatever, in the dungeon. And interact with them and make deals with them. And they would try and manipulate.
Uncanny dodge? That's actually a good question.
Why
uncanny dodge?
Dealing with the trap and getting the treasure because they didn't dare do it. But if they could lie to the player characters, maybe the player characters would...
No, I've got it because I used it for improved precise shot and all that sort of thing. Because I wanted to be able to many shot and then improved precise shot through mobs. So I took that whole line instead. What is that feed in the background talking about the quest? I'm running it on commentary mode. So we have got Ed Greenwood talking a little bit about making haunted halls in the background here. I thought it might be a fun thing to do. Fortunately, I'm having a hard time hearing the game on my own headphones here, so it's kind of... Hopefully I'll try to be a little quieter when I hear him talking, but... Oops. I did not take insightful reflexes, no. This is actually kind of an old character. I haven't played him in probably a year or so. So I'm sure that I could update him to sort of the most recent gameplay. But it is what it is. You know, I'm actually just gonna... Yeah, I guess I'll do it. There's so many traps and haunted halls here. Yay! Oh, there we go.
the original D&D booklets came out, I thought, what a cool idea. And some of my friends and I sat down and read through them, and we said, cool idea, but there's not enough here. It's going to devolve into an argument about my character succeeded or my character didn't succeed. So it wasn't until what was then known as Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the hardcover books, the Monster Manual first, and the Player's Handbook, and then we were all kept waiting for years for the Dungeon Master's Guide. I was doing everything in the realms according to AD&D to make sure that it all had an internal consistency. And so when later on some of my friends said that they wanted to play in the realms, well, it was that easy. We started in Waterdeep, helping create adventures, exploring Undermountain, and as a dungeon master, I wrote everything out in longhand test papers, exercise books. That you see, my father grew up in the Depression. You did not throw stuff away. It was almost like a sin to waste stuff. But of course, like all universities, at the end of an exam, you collect all the empty books, as well as the used ones. And the empty ones are supposed to be destroyed. So rather than destroy them, my father would bring them home. You don't waste stuff. So I had these stacks of ruled-line books, and I would write out in longhand everything that was going on during the play sessions. And it was important to me to keep track of the non-player characters, that they had lives the same as the player characters, so that they were doing things in the background. And I kept track of all that for years, in pencil, written at top speed, longhand, while we were playing. I was nuts. I still am nuts, but in a different way. The doppelganger does not want to fight right away. It wants to discover as much as it can about you. And therefore,
Does anyone ever dual monitor? Not for the game. I have seen people use, can't think of the technical name for it, where you have 3 monitors and then it's spread across. Is that Eyefinity? Whatever that AMD thing is? I think it's AMD. And so I have seen people do that, but I myself have never done that.
The city watch being called, the watch order showing spells. They can send a doppelganger that's in the shape of just a human, no problem. And they can literally be in the back room, floating there, or with their tentacles riding. And then the doppelganger goes to the courtroom and comes straight back down here. I got the here or something. And in this case, you can any chance in a dungeon to increase the role playing and decrease the fighting.
Ooh.
Makes the fighting more special when it happens rather than ho-hum. And so you get what the GI in the real world will say, serving as a whole bunch of stone cold boredom lasting for hours and then a few moments of frenetic activity. Fighting starts getting more like that, and therefore fighting becomes memorable.
Are outfits still better than armor in epics? No. Like I said, there are several things that I would change on this character were I to have the time to do it, and I probably will at some point.
Not necessarily the last thing that happens. Hopefully not the last thing that happens for you.
But that happens to me.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do the cheating
The
way.
doppelganger's a chance to talk, and to try and manipulate, and to creep out the players. So, any chance I can do all of those things, I'm in. Yeah, if you played a lot in the realms, you will soon begin to realize that doppelgangers are everywhere, particularly in very large urban centers, both cities and market towns where lots of people pass through. Because doppelgangers are the ultimate deployable. In early D&D, there was a lot of...
That was a nicely timed
see the monster attack! Well,
radiant force
if
field.
the doppelganger is doing its thing properly, you don't know it's a monster when you first meet it, because it will have a default thing that it looks like, which will probably be a human. It will probably be a human of the inoffensive, not dangerous sort, or whatever is appropriate to the terrain. Everything from, a non-edible lizard to a lame horse that you're not, whatever.
Anyone able to do a little better job than me in terms of the stats? Chewie, you think that one? Alright. Jeez. Jeez. I do absolutely dual monitor though, but usually it's like one side is DDO and the other side is chat, Windows, the wiki, you know, whatever it is I'm looking to do at the time. Stun and die, stun and die. That hurt. I personally think I'd find the center bezels to be a little weird, but that's, I think people get used to it who do it. Yeah. I can turn up the commentary track. I believe that's on the Dungeon Master side.
Oh, I have to be a little careful here because we still have some secrets we haven't revealed yet, but basically Rivior is remembered as a bandit lord, a robber baron, and he was. And the Haunted Halls was the dungeons underneath Rivior's Keep, and Rivior's Keep the keep itself has vanished long ago. But Rivior raided out of there, and the bit I have to sort of gloss over is in Cormyr's past, Arabelle, the large city that is to the east, was independent. And there were a number of independent kingdoms up here, like Esperin. And the actual delve that is that has become the Haunted Halls dates back to that time, and it had something to do with that independent kingdom. Rivior took it over later, and he was the local robber baron who used it as his hideout, his lair. And between the traps that were in it and his men and women defending it, it was just a place that nobody went near if they were law-abiding and so on. There were people who grazed their sheep up on the plateau, and they just sort of ignored the fact they were going past the entrance to the Haunted Halls, and the people who were using the Haunted Halls as interim just sort of ignored the fact that there were shepherds. And if ever there was an encounter, they killed a shepherd. So the locals in Eveningstar just knew it was a good place to stay away from. Enter the adventurers. Yes, it started before D&D. I was a fan of fantasy, sword and sorcery short stories, particularly the Fafhrd and Grey Mouser stories that Fritz Leiber did. Fritz Leiber did, in Fantastic magazine. These were self-contained stories, but if you happen to pick up enough issues of the magazine, you realize that they were episodes in the lives of these two heroes, and there was a shared world in all of these adventures, and you saw a little bit more of it in each story in the background. So I decided I was going to do this at the age of 6, and I started writing. And I should just give you a little backstory here. I grew up voraciously reading everything in my father's den. And my father had everything from wartime pulp, Give One to a Friend in Uniform paperbacks, to all of the great classics of English literature. And all this radar and radio stuff that he did because he was a radar physicist. And I would come running upstairs with something like The Owl Hoot Trail, She Was Staked Out Nude in the Sun to Die, which you might think was a pretty racy novel, and so did I at the time, but it was pretty racy for 1930, you know. And I would invariably come running up and ask my dad, this is great, Dad. Is there anything more? Did this writer write anything? And my father would almost always reply, if you want anything more, son, you're going to have to write it yourself. That writer died in, fill in the year. So I would rush downstairs and write a horrible pastiche of that writer's output, and gradually learned all the bad things not to do in writing and some of the good things. So one of the things I did was, coming across Fafhrd and Grey Mouse, I decided to do my own. And I didn't want to copy what the Fafhrd and Grey Mouse were doing. I loved the fact that they depended on each other, this sort of buddy relationship. But my character was a fat, wheezing, food-stained moneylender called Mert, a merchant, who used to be a sort of Conan type years and years ago, before his knees went and his belly grew. He can no longer outrun people, he can no longer outfight people, so he has to outthink people. And I was mainly interested in the repartee and the humor. So Mert wasn't very good at this, which meant at the end of each short story, he usually left town hastily, a step ahead of his creditors, his rivals, and the authorities. And what that meant is, he was going from port city to port city along a coast, the Sword Coast. It was so-called the Sword Coast because it was the seashore where the mainland met the Sea of Swords.
And I really need some ghost touch here.
Each of these cities had to have a name, so I built the realms, hopping south from Luskan, Neverwinter. Oh yes, it's much older than the computer games. Portlast, Lylon, Waterdeep, and so I went. And that was where the Forgotten Realms started. And then, later on, I became interested in what became Cormyr, the Dales, the Moonsea, and then I joined them with caravan routes through what Jeff Grubb later called the Heartlands of the Realms. And that's how the realms grew. Long before, we're talking 1966, where I started writing, 1967, before I knew it was called The Forgotten Realms. And so that's long before the game first appeared in 1974, and most people who weren't on a college campus near Gary Gygax didn't know about D&D till 1975. And that's where it all began. It began as a setting for stories. And I think that's the secret, or trick, if there is one, with the Forgotten Realms. It was a storytelling setting, first, foremost, and always. So, more than having elements in it, because somebody who was designing for a game says, I need pirates, I need jungle, I need desert. That came along later. It grew along the trade routes and along the needs of court intrigues. And so it feels real. It doesn't feel like somebody said, oh, we gotta have this, I gotta do this, I got a week until my Kickstarter's up, here it is. Instead, it grew for years before there was a game. And the game sort of drags things in this direction and that direction. We need this for the game. We need that for the game. The realms already had a core, so you were just sort of stitching new arms onto it. It was just that I wanted to have a grand entrance that was a defense, a deterrent, a deadly one. Because again, how is it that this place hasn't been totally scoured out years ago? Why is there anything left here? And the answer would have to be that there is a deterrent right at the entrance that makes casual intruders run away or die. That's pretty much their choice. And any follow-up or backlash, two kids playing, one of them dies, the other one runs screaming back to the village and tearfully tells the villagers what happened to, then the furious father and family of the one who died, we're going to go back there and take care of that. And all the men of the village, after they finished work in the fields for the day, grab their threshing flails and their axes and cudgels, and they head up there. It's got to be something that they can't deal with, that they have to try, and then finally say, it's better just to stay away from here. Nobody come near here. And that's really where it came to, and it fit in with the story of how Rivior had used it in the past. So, and it was cool. It's fun. And if you've encountered it, you realize the danger is actually telegraphed. You shouldn't die in it if you are alert and have your wits about you, you should start looking for a way past it, which is the first lesson I'm trying to teach you in the dungeon. I realize that, to some people who say that that's not a popular philosophy, but, you're sort of trying to clue people in as to the way this dungeon works, and that clues them in right from the beginning. There are going to be traps. They're going to be obvious traps, not to mention green slime or anything, but there's always going to be a way around it. Look for a way around it. Look for a hidden way around it. And be careful when you're looking. The gore factor, the ooh. And the other thing is, in practical terms, and, again, what can make it into a final game depends on, how much we want to overload the user's computer. But you just naturally think as a designer that a spike trap, there's going to be things that have fallen down in between the spikes, like fell in there from earlier people who ran afoul of the trap. Like if the body fell and got impaled on the spikes and was later removed by grieving fellows who wanted to get it raised, maybe something fell off and fell down between the spikes and was missed and forgotten and is still there, like a dagger or a vial that has a potion of healing in it, or a bunch of keys, or something even more intriguing. What is this thing? Oh, it looks powerful. Look, one end's glowing. If it wasn't glowing, you picked it up, drop it in a hurry. Yeah, but I don't want it. It's magic. It's glowing. It's magic. We can't just leave it here. Yes, we can. We can, just before the whole room blows up. No, you don't understand. If we just leave everything here, well, we'll never make this could be our ticket. We could have mansions full of dancing girls. Really, yeah. I hate dancing girls. I'm a girl, remember? But just pick up the glowing thing. No, you pick up the glowing thing. You carry it and you run like 2 rooms behind us. So when you blow up, we want all that stuff. I want those sort of role-playing moments. I don't want the it's a rusty dagger, too rusty to use. The dungeon master says, fine, we move on. So the spike trap is fun because you can put all sorts of things in it, and it doesn't feel as dirty, as cheating as some of the traps, like the trap that closes again above you, or the trap that fills with water and then the skeletons rise out of the water and attack you, and you think, really? And when you start to begin, the dungeon master is your foe rather than just the entertainer presenting the dungeon to you.
Cool. Yeah, it's nice to hear the Ed Greenwood commentary there. I was just kind of showing off the traps for y'all. Alright, so let me get back to chat here while we have a second. Someone saying, what about the hand wrap hitbox? Yeah, we're aware of that. It's something that we are working to correct. What happened is when we put hand wraps back to regular 2-weapon fighting weapons, they have the same hitbox now as any other 2-weapon fighting weapon. And that's a little stubbier than what the former hand wrap hitbox used to be. And so we need to do some work. I think that work may actually have already been done, but it's not on live yet, to extend the hitbox for hand wraps. So that should be coming. Technically it's working as it should as a 2-weapon fighting weapon, but it is different from what people expect based on history for it to be. Let's see. Next question. Ernie Klein, very active in the industry. Yep, yeah, he's a cool dude. Would love to meet him someday. Yeah, the official term is stubby. No, I don't know. I mean, it's what 2-weapon fighting is, right? So, but that's just different from what people expect. So. Let's see. Any future planned for allowing player to be dungeon masters of their own dungeons? No. it is unlikely that we would have user-generated content for DDO. When we say our dungeons are handcrafted, that's not marketing speak, that's actually true. And so it's not like some kind of Minecraft-style toolset would function for DDO. Okay, if we want to do this, I think we're going to have to take out the necromancers and rather than try to focus on all these reanimated corpses. Because they just keep spawning forever, as long as the necromancers are alive.
One of the things that the passage of time allows you to do is the flexibility to just change things. Things have changed in the intervening time. But one of the most fun things to do in life, once you get past the teenage years of, wow, this is a cool adventure, I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to skydive, I want to, before I die. But you start to see consequences. You start to think about, if this, then this. You start to work towards things. I would like to own my own house someday, so therefore, blah, blah, blah. Or, I love that car, that new car I just saw go past. I've got to have one of those. How do I get one of those? So you begin to, so you see consequences. And years and years ago, Robert Heinlein wrote a famous science fiction story, one of many of his short stories, and it's entitled, If This Goes On. And of course, that's what you're getting at here. If things go on the way they're going, then what will happen? People who do your weather forecasts do this all the time, but it's fun to do it at a longer range of what will have happened since the haunted halls as we first saw them. Because in what you change, what you add, what things have, quote, happened, you can steer things in a particular direction. You can signal to your players the realms itself, the wider world is heading in this direction. Or wouldn't it be cool if this that went so far, if you as the player character stepped in and took it further, you could end up being king or something like that. And it just dangles possibilities in front of them. And that's the fun thing, the secondary fun. The first thing is the excitement. The stuff that every kid sees at the beginning of Indiana Jones in the first movie when he's frantically trying to get out of that dungeon and not get killed. That's the initial excitement. But the secondary excitement is, I have all these choices in front of me, all these possibilities, but I only have so much time and only have so much resources. Which one will I choose? And there are entire games, board games and computer games, that go to that second one. It isn't just, bash monster, take treasure. Or, oh, this fight is with a bigger boss than the last fight. It's, hey, now, I've got to make a decision here. Which way shall I go?
Alright, let me get back to a couple of chat questions. Someone saying, oh my god, you have half skill points, you noob, what's wrong with you? The answer is correct. So the reason I have half skill points is because I am not proficient in jump, but I always put points in jump when I'm leveling up. Yes, I know you only need to technically have X amount of jump, but I prefer not to cast jump or have a potion active, so I would rather just have a natural 36 jump. So that's why I have a half point in that. Half point in move silent is the same thing. I am not proficient in move silent, but I am looking to improve my move silent score with the extra skill points I have as an artificer. So that's why I've got some half stat skills. Someone else is saying, let's see. Is it a waste? Yes, if I was level 30. But since I've got a couple more levels yet to go before it's an issue, the issue is to shore up my skill points by the time I hit cap. Actually, you're right. because I'm heroic. Yeah, whatever. Yes, it's a waste, but so what? I have more skill points than I know what to do with. Why is that? Well, that's because I'm a Harper with a current int of 49. Alright, I'm not quite sure where everyone has gotten off to. Let's see, it looks like one person DDO'd back, and Tarlius is through fighting necromancers. So yes, Patui, why don't you follow me, and we're going to go in, and we need to take care of the necromancers. There's not much point ultimately going after these reincarnated adventurers, because they just keep spawning until we kill the people who are spawning them, which is the necromancers. So we need to go through and make sure all the necromancers are dead. Let's see. Very handy with the Drought of Midnight during night revels, I bet. Yeah. What is fun about Dragonborn? Teaser details? Sorry, I can't really get into that yet. It's a class that's pretty popular in the game. Let's see, Virtual Gib asks on YouTube, question about Eternal Flasks. Any chance we could get cooldown timers to reset when exiting dungeons? Probably not. Alright. I understand about the timer on Eternal Flasks. I think it would be a fairly moderate engineering task, because they sort of just have their own independent timers on it, and that's just sort of the way it works. But I can appreciate why you would say that. No, we're not running. We're fighting the zombies and then killing the necromancers. Yes, technically if you want to power game Haunted Halls, you are welcome to just grab the crest and run, but I prefer us to do something slightly different. We are exploring the Haunted Halls here today. I know, I'm being very anti-Sarlona. That's always been my experience in this server, is a bunch of min-max power gamers. But not saying it's a bad thing. But yes, I'm a flower sniffer. Alright, I've got the crust. Alright, there we go. This is one of those things I personally find, yes, you can kind of min-max your way through the zombie section, but I find it's like, you could also just kill the necromancers and not worry about it, and that tends to be the route I take. That way you don't have to worry about them respawning all the time, etc., etc. Just get it done, rather than try to shave off a little bit, cause yourself twice as much work. IMO, your mileage may vary. There's nothing at all wrong with that. Yeah, that's a little rough. I am most of my main characters are spread across Argo, Thelanis, and Sarlona. For years, I was a Sarlonian. I played on Sarlona a little less than I used to, just sort of due to finding a really great guild on Thelanis and things like that. But no, there's nothing at all wrong with that.
The Zentarum, it's a little bit of a complicated thing because everybody who knows of them in the realms, who's outside the Moonsea area, outside Zendel just calls the Zentarum, uses the term Zentarum for those nasty guys from Zendel. And the Zentarum are actually a black network, and black as in evil, and black as in also that was, at that point, their heraldic badges and so on, they use black. But there are Zentalar, who are warriors, and the mercenaries and trained troops of the Zentrim. And the Zentrim are really a fellowship of a few priests of Bane, and later on in Lunchtime, Cyric got in there. And there was a rivalry between various priests of Bane, the High Interceptor and others. And the High Interceptor ran the church, and these were the rebels. The ones in the Zentrim were the rebels who were trying to break away from him. With the aid of beholder allies, there were a few beholders operating in the background, but mainly when we think of Zentrim, we think of evil wizards, led by Lord Manchun. And the Zentrim are in the haunted halls and in Cormyr at all because their first and foremost raison d'etre was not to be evil. They were that already. It was to get rich, and they were going to get rich by controlling trade between the mineral-rich Moonsea. The Moonsea has mines to the north. That's where a lot of the metal used for everything in the realms, not just coinage, but weapons and tools. Really important stuff. Armor comes from, and then many of the consumers are out on the Sword Coast. Well, if you control the shortest, safest trade route with the minimum number of middlemen, you get rich, and other people don't get as rich. And the Zentrim were continually
trying to raise
Breck,
and then you can have Breck raise others.
In the end, they went across the desert of Norok, and there were novels that Troy Denning wrote that are about that, the parched sea and so on. But one of their earlier trade routes was to take over Daggerdale, or at least reduce it to lawless, so they could run through it with their well-armed caravans. Then the Stonelands, which is very rugged terrain north of settled Cormyr, and Eveningstar is right on the edge of the Stonelands. So it was a way station on their caravan route. And of course, they wanted to move their caravans through without them being inspected by the Purple Dragons of Cormyr, without paying any taxes on them to Cormyr. They just wanted to go through. Might makes right. So it's, if you could imagine, rogue long-distance truckers trying to drive their trucks through everywhere without stopping at customs, where that's the Zentrim. And that's why they were in Eveningstar, and why they were using the haunted halls, because if they'd used a warehouse in the village, yes, they would have been inspected and taxed. But the haunted halls is like, nobody ever went there because it was dangerous, there were monsters. One of the things that had to go away was all the tapestries. There were all sorts of tapestries around that they could take down too, and some of them they could sell, and some of them were animated, so you've got this hunt that went through the Elven one all the time. And yeah, I like unconventional treasure. And I like unconventional treasure because, again, what will the player characters do with it?
Oh, this might be too rough for us.
Most of the time, they'll just leave it. If they're not prepared to deal with the unconventional, I don't see any coins, I don't see any weapons, then nothing's glowing, move on. You know, but I live to see player characters take stuff and do weird stuff with it, particularly if they do something absolutely brilliant or absolutely unusual. And that particular painting, it was set up to give people who think out of the box, to use the expression, something really cool to play with.
Browsing Monkey has an interesting question. As a new player, I'm wondering why I would play on multiple servers. Typically, the reason I've played on multiple servers is I've been in different static groups over the years. So, for example, I had a Tuesday night static group on Wayfinder, so I've got some epic level characters on Wayfinder. I was in a guild. I still am in the Defense Guild, although, like I say, I don't play on Sarlona as much as I used to. And so I played on Sarlona for a long time. Additionally, I actually started on Arenal, which got merged into Sarlona back in the day. So that's why I've largely had Sarlona as a home for many years. On Thelanis, I've found a really great group of people to run with every Friday night, and then a lot of times during the week as well. So I've been playing in recent years on Thelanis a lot. And then on Arganessen is where I was playing with my twin brother and some of my old friends from high school. So that's why I've been on Arganessen over the years. So it really is just a matter for me of the various groups I've been in. Additionally, I personally have a need to have characters at different levels on every server so that I can do things like this live stream. and switch up characters. That also does frankly mean that yes, I'm not able to dedicate as much time into, say, acquiring the best gear and all that for every character on every server, because I don't have unlimited time. But that is, something I've sort of been willing to do without a little bit as a way to do this. Someone's talking politics. Let's leave the politics out of our live stream. Smacked me good. Got that right. Yep. Let's see. Party wipe. Yep. That's right. If you are a free-to-play player, you probably want to at least get some favor on all the servers to help get your turbine point there. Yeah. Titan, sorry, I was multitasking on multiple chat rooms and trying to stay alive, so I'm not entirely sure what Mr. Greenwood was discussing in that most recent journal. Like I say, also I'm having a hard time hearing this right now by myself, so you may just need to go back and listen later if you would prefer. I think we're probably just going to have to call this. I don't think we're going to be able to beat this guy very well, given our current situation. Alright. Oh, wow, I'm all the way back in Amrath. Nice, I'm in Amrath. Indeed. Well, that was kind of a disappointing run, but like I say, I'm only level 27. We went in on hard. Kind of small group, I was distracted. Was lag, right? Isn't that what I'm supposed to blame? So, anyway, it was fun though, and I enjoyed listening to Ed Greenwood talk and all that, so hopefully you did too. And watching me die is more fun than watching me not die, so got that as well. I did say I was going to talk a little bit about our Black Friday sales, so let me do that. They will be getting active within the next couple of hours here, and they're going to be running through Sunday. I think through Sunday. We're going to have deep discounts on Vaults of the Artificers, the Shadowfell Legendary Upgrade. This is through the DDO Market. Half off the Traveler's Trunk. We are releasing the Traveler's Trunk as well. We'll have double bonus points. And Epic and Heroic Autos boxes will be on sale. Additionally, we do have our typical sale that kicks off today, and that is an Honor Your Guild sale. So that'll be 25% off Astral Shards, Guild Renown Elixirs, half off Guild Charters, and half off Guild Airship Beacons. On top of that, like I say, we have our Strength and Numbers weekend, plus 5% XP per party or raid member, and that goes through through Sunday. Getting shut off Monday, I think. And then we are getting ready to kick off December deals, which is something we've done every year where we have different weekly deals throughout the month of December as well. We're going to have a lot more information on DDO.com/store when that's ready to be published. Like I say, these sales should be ready to kick off in just a couple of minutes. Or not minutes, but hours here later this afternoon. And we'll be sending out like some emails and all that as well. It'll be on social media and the launchers. So hope you enjoy the big Black Friday deals. Hope you are going to have a good DDO weekend, perhaps an extended DDO weekend if that's you. Best of luck, and I'll probably see you in game as well, because I myself don't have any major plans this weekend. I don't know if I'm going to be back for Friday afternoon at noon. If I do, I'll be streaming from home. We'll kind of just have to play it by ear. But if not, I will see you here back next Wednesday on twitch.tv/DDO stream and youtube.com/DungeonsandDragons/live. I have checked with various DDO streamers. I know that Gemini is streaming at 4. Titan is going to be streaming at 8, 9, 8. I can't remember now. And most of our streams are actually taking place through the weekend here. There are a few that may not happen because of the holiday, but for the most part, everything is going as scheduled. So, hope you have a great DDO weekend. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Just a note, I will get you guys a Turbine Point code in-game. So, yeah.